Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are really getting into the weeds on the career of Scott Thompson, a truly essential Canadian comedic voice.
Absolutely. And for so many people, he's, instantly recognizable, a key member of the Kids in the Hall, obviously.
Right, or Brian from the Larry Sanders Show, the sort of perpetually stressed out assistant.
Exactly. But our mission today, really, is to push past those iconic roles. We're diving deep into this duality he embodies.
Duality. How so?
Well, he's this brilliant, almost anarchic sketch comedian on one hand, but on the other, he's also become this quite profound chronicler of terror, personal terror, political terror.
So his comedy isn't just funny, it's got this edge, this resilience born from some heavy stuff.
Precisely. We're digging for the why, Why is his satire often so sharp, so complex? What happens when, real-world horror slams into the world of sketch comedy?
Okay, I see. So before we get into all that, let's ground ourselves a bit, the basics. He was born John Scott Thompson, June 12, 1959, grew up in Brampton, Ontario, second oldest of 5 kids.
Right. And there's that little detail about his name in the sources, which I think is actually pretty telling.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
He was named John after his uncle, but pretty early on, he made this conscious choice to just drop the John.
Just Scott Thompson for the stage. Simpler.
Exactly. Pragmatic, right. It's a small thing, but it sort of hints at this clarity, this efficiency he brought to his professional persona, even when his characters were, pure chaos.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, so that pragmatic artist, but the environment he grew up in wasn't exactly straightforward, was it?
No, not at all. And we really have to start there if we want to understand the darker currents in his work. We need to talk about this foundational trauma from when he was just a teenager in Brampton.
You're talking about 1975.
Yeah, it's significant. Thompson was attending Brampton Centennial Secondary School, and he was actually there, a witness, during the school shooting that happened that year.
God, that's heavy, especially for a kid. In a school, of all places. Yeah. A place you're supposed to feel safe.
Right. It's an overwhelming thing. You have to ask, how does that kind of early visceral exposure to just random, unpredictable violence shape the comedy that comes later?
So how do we connect those dots? From witnessing something like that to the Kids in the Hall?
Well, the connection, based on the material we have, seems pretty direct. Thompson himself apparently drew a clear line from that moment in '75 to the themes he explored later in his one-man shows.
Okay.
Think about the feel of Keith comedy. It wasn't just silly sketches, right? It often had this aggressive streak, this sort of absurd violence, and definitely this deep anxiety bubbling under the surface about, norms and repressed feelings.
So you're suggesting maybe the head-crushing sketch or those sudden violent outbursts in some characters that might actually stem from that early experience, that feeling that violence can just erupt anywhere.
I think it's a strong possibility. Yeah, that kind of event plants the seed of fundamental vulnerability. If your school hallway isn't safe, then what is? And maybe that fear of sudden rupture, it gets channeled into the characters. Like, look at Fran, the housewife character.
Oh, yeah, Fran. Always on the edge.
Right. She often tips into these moments of just desperate, almost violent frustration with her whole suburban life. That pressure cooker feeling, it seems connected to some kind of underlying unresolved anxiety. It becomes material, right? A way to process the chaos by creating something absurd out of it.
Processing chaos.
Yeah.
That seems like a theme. And speaking of disruption, the sources mentioned his time at York University was brief.
Yeah, very brief. He got asked to leave in his 3rd year. And the reason they gave...
Disruptive.
You got it. Disruptive. Which, for someone about to make their name in comedy based on upending expectations, well, it's less a failure and more like, confirmation.
Right. Proof he was already on a different wavelength. Couldn't fit the academic mold.
He was already an iconoclast in training, basically.
So getting kicked out actually pushed him towards comedy.
Seems like it. It led him right into the Toronto comedy scene, which was really starting to bubble up then. He joined this early troupe called the Love Cats.
The Love Cats? Never heard of them.
Yeah, they weren't the ones who hit it big. But the crucial thing, the absolute game changer, happened there. That's where he met Mark McKinney.
Ah, okay. The beginning of a legendary partnership.
Exactly. That connection, that collaboration. It set the stage for, everything that came next with the Kids in the Hall.
Which paid off pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
By 1984, he's a core member.
Yep. And then the TV show launches in '89, first on CBC and HBO, which was a huge deal, getting that U.S. exposure.
And later moved to CBS for the last couple of seasons. I remember that. Katie was just massive. Its influence is undeniable. And right at the center of that influence, you have to talk about one character in particular.
Oh, absolutely. You have to talk about Buddy Cole.
The alpha queen.
He's arguably Thompson's masterpiece within the sketch world. And, you know, Thompson being openly gay himself, he poured so much into Buddy, this flamboyant, incredibly witty socialite, always on his bar stool, martini in hand.
Delivering those monologues.
Yeah.
They were something else. Venomous sometimes, but brilliant.
Totally. And Buddy wasn't just camp, you know, he wasn't just for laughs. In the context of mainstream TV back then, he was kind of revolutionary.
How so? What made him revolutionary?
Well, think about it. He took this figure who could have easily been portrayed as marginalized, right? A flamboyant gay man, and he imbued him with this ultimate authority. Buddy spoke with this absolute, unshakable confidence.
Yeah, he never doubted himself for a second.
Never. He used gossip and social commentary like a weapon. It was like a Trojan horse, smuggling in really sharp political points and cultural critiques disguised as bitchy observations. He completely flipped the power dynamic.
The ultimate insider who was also an outsider, telling truths nobody else would.
Exactly. The truth teller in sequence. And what's amazing is how long that character has lasted, how adaptable he is. The sources mention he brought Buddy back in 2014 for the Colbert Report.
Right. It was for the Winter Olympics, wasn't it? In Sochi.
Yes, and the context there is everything. Colbert didn't just bring him back for nostalgia.
No, it was pointed. Russia had just enacted those really controversial anti-gay laws, the gay propaganda laws.
Precisely. So Thompson, as Buddy Cole, goes on this major American late-night show reporting from Sochi and just unleashes these perfectly crafted acid-tongue takedowns of those repressive policies.
So Buddy became this tool for international satire, using high camp to tackle human rights issues.
Absolutely. It proved the character wasn't just about, you know, funny observations about cheese or whatever. He was fully weaponized for high-stakes political commentary. Still relevant.
And he keeps going. Thompson launched that one-man show in 2018, up full of the deluge, the Buddy Cole monologues. Still performs it.
Yeah, tours with it, performs at places like the Portland Queer Comedy Festival. It's actually pretty rare for a sketch character to stay that relevant for, 4 decades? And to transition into a successful solo stage show format.
It says a lot about the writing, the depth of the character.
For sure. Buddy's incredibly quotable, but he also evolves. He stays current. But, you know, we focus so much on Buddy Cole, and rightly so, but it's easy to forget Thompson's sheer range within Kith. He wasn't just Buddy.
Oh, absolutely not. He was a chameleon. He could disappear.
Yeah?
The sources list this incredible gallery of roles.
Like who?
Well, obviously Queen Elizabeth II, which he also brought back later, didn't he? On Conan.
Yep. Hilarious.
And then totally different characters like Secretary Kathy. So uptight, always put upon.
And Fran, the suburban housewife, we talked about her anxiety.
Right. And the contrast between Fran and Buddy is kind of fascinating, isn't it?
It really is. Buddy is all certainty, control, judging the world from his perch. Fran is just drowning in self-doubt and domestic chaos.
And Thompson nails both. The absolute confidence and the crippling insecurity. It shows he understands the whole spectrum.
Total command of human reality, from the, sublime to the utterly mundane and desperate.
And then there's Danny Husk.
Ah, Danny Husk. The businessman, always in a suit, completely deadpan, while the world around him goes absolutely insane.
He's the ultimate straight man to the universe's absurdity, trying to navigate some bizarre office meeting or discovering his wife is a demon, just another Tuesday.
And Danny Husk is maybe the most interesting one to think about long-term, because he's the character Thompson chose for that graphic novel project, The Hollow Planet. We should definitely circle back to that.
Good point. But sticking with Keith for a sec, it wasn't just the show. They kept working together, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They toured pretty recently, 2014, I think it was, and they did that mini-series project, Death Comes to Town, in 2010. All 5 of them, Foley, McCulloch, McDonald, McKinney, and Thompson.
So that collaborative spirit, that chemistry, it really endured.
Definitely. It wasn't just a job for them, clearly.
Okay, so Keith obviously opens doors. But it also led to this parallel career for Thompson in the U.S. in a really different kind of show.
You mean the Larry Sanders Show?
Exactly. While Keith is still going, or in its later seasons, he lands this recurring, really defining role as Brian, Hank Kingsley's assistant. Appeared in, 35 episodes?
Yeah, a significant run, and this is where you see a major shift in his performance style.
How so?
Well, in Keith, so much relies on big physical comedy, exaggerated characters, wigs, voices.
Right, sketch comedy tools.
But on Larry Sanders, he has to be completely grounded. It's that specific type of cringe comedy, observational realism. Brian is meticulous, super anxious, a bit repressed, and totally indispensable to Hank's fragile ego.
It's all in the reaction shots with him, isn't it? The subtle panic.
Totally. He had to take all that physical control he learned doing, Queen Elizabeth or some demented old man and just internalize it completely. Create this tiny, simmering ball of anxiety that is Brian. It proved he could do restrained, realistic comedy really well.
And that skill, that subtlety, maybe paved the way for an even bigger shift later on.
You're thinking Hannibal.
Yeah. Moving into pure drama. That recurring role as Jimmy Price, the FBI crime scene guy.
27 episodes, that's a serious role in a very dark, very acclaimed show.
The leap from Buddy Cole, or even Brian, to Jimmy Price, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
It really shows his depth as an actor, I think. He's not performing at reality anymore, commenting on it. He's integrating himself into this highly structured, often really gruesome fictional world.
Yeah. Playing an FBI tech requires this specific grounded delivery, handling evidence props, spitting out technical jargon.
It's a million miles from the beautiful anarchy of Keith's sketches.
Right.
And the fact that he pulled it off, that he held his own in a show dominated by actors like Mads Mikkelsen and Hugh Dancy, it's just proof of incredible versatility.
He didn't seem pigeonholed at all. His career just kept branching out.
Yeah, look at the range. He pops up in Star Trek, Voyager playing Tommen.
Did his sci-fi duty.
Right. Does voice work? Like for The Simpsons, playing Grady in a few episodes?
Hosted that Canadian reality show, My Fabulous Gay Wedding. Went on talk shows like Politically Incorrect.
And still working constantly. Recent roles in shows like Sort of, playing Bryce, and that action comedy Fubar with Schwarzenegger playing Dr. Louis Pfeffer.
He never really stopped.
Yeah.
But let's pause on one project that really screams disruptive, going back to that word.
Mouth Congress.
Mouth Congress. His queer-core punk band with Paul Bellini. Right in the mid-90s when Keith and Larry Sanders were making him pretty mainstream famous.
Yeah, this is such a crucial piece of the puzzle. It shows this commitment to raw, completely uncompromised expression. And queer-core punk, we need to understand what that means.
Right, it's not just punk rock.
No, it's inherently political, aggressive, anti-establishment, super DIY, confrontational, focused squarely on queer identity, anger, social commentary.
So, picture this. He's on network TV playing Hank Kingsley's nervous assistant, and then maybe later that night he's in some basement screaming these aggressive punk anthems with Bellini.
It's an amazing duality, isn't it? It's like this necessary release valve, the absolute opposite energy of the polished K-ith world.
Did anything come of it back then?
Not commercially, really. It was very underground. But what's cool is how they brought it back. In 2015, they just uploaded all their old recordings onto Bandcamp.
Just put it out there for anyone.
Yeah, more about archiving it, sharing that history, than making money. A real digital pioneer move, in a way.
And that led to actual reunion shows.
It did. They started playing live again in 2016. And then they used Kickstarter, that independent funding route, to finance a whole documentary about the band.
Mouth Congress, the film, premiered in 2021.
Right. So it shows he's comfortable not just making raw stuff, but also using these modern direct-to-fan ways to get it out there.
And that digital savvy wasn't new for him either, was it? Scotland.
Ah, Scotland. Yeah, back in the mid-90s, developed with his younger brother, Craig. This was really early days for the interactive web.
What was it exactly? Just a fan site?
No, it was way more ambitious than most celebrity sites back then, which were usually just static bios. Scotland apparently had live chat fan voting, some weird thing called comedy espionage.
Comedy espionage.
Who knows? But crucially, it was also an early form of e-commerce. They were selling Buddy Cole merch, T-shirts, tapes directly to fans online.
In the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Pretty forward-thinking. Before secure payments were even common.
Exactly. Shows he was already thinking about self-distribution and engaging directly with his audience way back then.
He really did embrace every platform. The website, the band, TV, film, and books, too.
Yeah.
You get the Buddy Babylon autobiography with Bellini.
Yep. And as we mentioned, that graphic novel, The Hollow Planet, based on Danny Husk, he's truly a multi-format creator, never felt confined.
Okay, so we've covered this huge creative output, but now we need to shift gears, like you said earlier, and talk about the personal history that seems to fuel so much of it.
Right. And this is where things get intense, because his creative life is completely tangled up with these incredibly traumatic, politically charged events that forced him to confront terror head-on. This is the raw material.
We already discussed the first one, the 1975 school shooting he witnessed, but then 25 years later came something much more targeted, the firebombing incident in 2000.
Yes. He was living in West Hollywood then, with his boyfriend at the time, Joel Soleil, who's a French documentarian.
And the context around this attack,
Yeah.
it's crucial, isn't it? It wasn't random.
Not at all. It was directly linked to Soler's work. So Soler had made this satirical documentary called Uncle Saddam.
About Saddam Hussein's homeland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Apparently, using footage Soler had somehow smuggled out of Iraq, it painted this picture of the dictator's bizarre, sometimes mundane, private world, and Thompson got involved.
Oh.
He wrote the narration for the film, which was read by Wallace Langham, another actor. So they were essentially mocking one of the most dangerous dictators on the planet.
And that didn't go unnoticed. The attack happened November 1st, 2000. Thompson's description of it is chilling.
It sounds truly terrifying. Pure malice. He said they didn't just throw something small, they took the big plastic garbage cans from the front of the house
Filled them with gasoline.
and set them ablaze right there on the front lawn, like this huge, slow-burning pyre aimed right at them. But it was more than just fire.
Of paint.
The paint. They apparently drenched the front of the house in red paint. Buckets of it. Thompson said it was deliberate, made to look like the house itself was bleeding.
Just pure psychological terror. Visual intimidation.
Absolutely. And then there was the note they left.
Yeah. What does it say?
It was explicit. Thompson kept it. It read, "In the name of Allah, the merciful and compassionate, burn this satanic film or you will be dead." And the word dead was underlined.
Wow. So this wasn't just some crackpot. This was a direct terrorist threat tied to Islamic extremism, targeting artists for making political satire. It brought global conflict right to his doorstep.
Exactly. Into his private life, his home. And you take that direct targeted terror and you combine it with the memory of that random senseless terror from the school shooting years earlier.
And that potent combination leads to his next major creative project.
The lowest show on earth. His one-man show. He explicitly designed it as a way to grapple with all this. He called it processing incidents of terror on micro and macrocosmic levels.
Micro being the school shooting random close-up violence.
Right. And macro being the firebombing global political violence targeted threat. The show was meant to be this aggressive, provocative, satirical dive into fear itself.
A powerful idea.
Yeah.
But the timing was just brutal. He was set to open it off Broadway in New York in September 2001.
The irony is almost unbearable. The posters went up around the city on September 10th, 2001.
And the posters themselves were designed to provoke, weren't they?
Oh, incredibly so. The sources described the main image. It was Thompson lying on the ground looking up with what was described as a big wad of semen dripping down the side of his face.
Okay, so deliberately shocking.
Yeah.
Using sexual imagery,
Right.
confronting darkness.
Exactly. Comedy designed to jolt people awake. And then, the very next day, 9/11 happens.
September 11th, the World Trade Center, the Pentagon.
And suddenly, this show created to dissect and satirize terror using shock tactics and dark humor.
Yeah.
It just becomes impossible. The real thing, the scale of the real world terror, completely overshadowed it.
Thompson said the material became impossible to talk about.
Yeah, how could it not? His very personal, satirical exploration of fear was silenced by this monumental collective trauma. His creative coping mechanism just got swamped by reality.
It's such a profound, tragic collision of events.
Yeah.
To survive a targeted attack, make art about it, and then have that art effectively canceled by an even bigger act of terror.
It really underscores that theme of resilience we keep coming back to. Because he did keep going. That setback didn't stop him creating.
No, he launched another show later, Catastrophe, in 2006, still exploring dark themes.
Right. And that same year, he took part in Canada Reads, the literary debate show. He championed Mordecai Richler's novel Cocksure.
Which is itself a controversial, satirical book.
Exactly. So he was still engaging in that challenging, vital cultural conversation, never shied away from the difficult stuff.
That resilience, that refusal to shy away.
Yeah.
It was tested again, wasn't it? This time physically.
Yeah. The final big challenge we know about came in 2009, a serious health crisis.
He was diagnosed with cancer.
B-cell non-Hodgkin's gastric lymphoma, diagnosed in March 2009. And considering everything else, he'd already survived the external traumas facing this internal battle. It's incredibly poignant.
But he fought it. The sources mentioned the treatment.
He did. Head on. 6 rounds of chemotherapy, followed by a month of radiation, a really intensive regimen.
And the outcome?
Fortunately successful.
Oh.
He's confirmed to be cancer-free now. He went through that whole ordeal quite publicly and came out the other side.
Surviving cancer after surviving a firebombing. It really cements that idea of resilience being his driving force. It wasn't just about getting through it, was it? It was about getting back to work.
Absolutely. And he returned with real energy. Look at his activity since then. He's continued doing voice work like playing Thistle in that kids show, Pinecone and Pony.
He was part of the KI3 Revival series on Amazon Prime.
Yep. And showing up in contemporary live-action series like Fubar, it just proves that all those battles, personal and physical, they didn't diminish his drive. He just seems to process the disruption and keep making things.
So wrapping this up, if we look back over our deep dive,
Yeah.
we started with the familiar sketch comedy, the genius of Buddy Cole.
Right. Then we saw that unexpected pivot into serious drama with Hannibal.
Uncovered the punk rock spirit of Mouth Congress, the early web vision of Scotland.
But the real core narrative, the thread tying it all together, is this incredible transformation of disruption into art. Witnessing violence, getting kicked out of school, surviving a terrorist attack, battling cancer.
He took all of it.
All of it. And channeled it into this powerful, necessary, sometimes really dark, but always compelling body of work. He's the artist who just refused to be silenced, even when the world, quite literally on 9/11, made his message feel impossible.
He really demonstrated how personal trauma isn't just background noise for an artist. Can actively shape the work, dictate its texture, its tone. It forces the comedy to be sharper, maybe more aggressive, but ultimately more truthful somehow.
Couldn't agree more. And as we finish up, we wanted to leave you, the listener, with maybe one last thing to chew on. Something that circles back to that theme of duality, of artistic choice.
Okay.
We spent a good chunk of time on Buddy Cole, right? The flamboyant alpha queen, Thompson's primary voice for political satire.
Yeah, his most famous creation, probably.
But the source material notes that when Thompson decided to do a big standalone project outside Kate, that graphic novel, The Hollow Planet.
He didn't base it on Buddy Cole.
No, he based it on Danny Husk, the straight-laced, suit-wearing, perpetually bewildered businessman.
Huh. That is an interesting choice. Buddy's the commentator, the satirist. Danny Husk is the guy things happen to.
Right.
The vehicle for absurdist sci-fi, not direct commentary.
Exactly. So the question to ponder is, why? Why did this comedian, celebrated for embodying these radical, outspoken, queer personas like Buddy, choose his most unassuming, almost repressed, straight character to anchor his first big fictional narrative outside the troupe?
Does Danny Husk represent something different? A different kind of anxiety, maybe? Not political, but existential, mundane.
Perhaps. Maybe Buddy Cole confronts the chaos of the world head-on, while Danny Husk just tries and usually fails to find some logic or order within it. It suggests different ways artists process things.
So something to think about. What does that choice tell us about Scott Thompson's range, his inner world, his motivations, giving the quiet businessman Danny Husk this whole separate, weird, fictional life in the Hollow Planet?
Definitely something to mull over as you explore the incredible, diverse, and deeply resilient work of Scott Thompson.